Welcome to the Happy Bones, Happy Life podcast. I'm Margie Bissinger, a physical therapist and integrative health coach, and I am your host and guide on our journey to discover the keys to stronger bones, more happiness, and the secrets to live your best life ever. From nutrition to stress, from exercise to happiness, you will gain revolutionary insights from our leading experts. It is time for you to discover the health and happiness you deserve. Hey, Margie here. Did you know that Pilates can improve your bone and overall health? Well, we're going to delve into this today with my special guest, Penelope Shure. And Penelope is a dance and Pilates instructor extraordinaire. She has extensive training and experience in working with people with osteoporosis. She's had her own Pilates studios in Lenox and Albany, and she teaches workshops to bring wellness and joy into corporate environments. In today's interview, we talk about the benefits of Pilates for everyone, and we discuss exercises that are actually dangerous, though, for people with osteoporosis that need to be avoided. But in our talk today, Penelope goes beyond that. She actually goes through all the different Pilates progressions and what needs to be modified so that we can take these exercises and make them effective and safe for people who have osteoporosis and osteopenia. And Penelope is just a bright, shining light in this world. And I think you'll see that in this interview. So stay tuned. Welcome, Penelope. I am so excited to be with you here today. We met over 9 years ago at a National Osteoporosis Foundation luncheon in the city, in New York City, and we just hit it off. And then I was so lucky to go to one of the workshops you were involved with in the Berkshires and saw you in action. And you were really the Pilates, the dance instructor extraordinaire. You have so much magic when you're working with people, and I'm just really thrilled to have you speak to our audience today. So why don't we, hi, glad to have you here.
Hi, Margie, thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm really excited to be a part of it and very, very flattered that you're including me.
Oh, well, I'm just really thrilled to have you here. So let's get started with Pilates. Now, how did you even get involved in Pilates, and when was that?
I started taking Pilates lessons over 20 years ago and loved it right away. I mean, I had always danced. I started taking dance lessons when I was 4 years old, and that was instantly, I fell in love with movement. And I had heard about Pilates on and off over the years, but was never in a location where I could find an instructor. And ended up moving with my family to Albany, New York, and drove by a Pilates studio, and all these bells went off in my head, and I went, oh my God, I can try it. And I went in, I was a bit overwhelmed because it was a classical studio filled with lots of equipment that looked very daunting, kind of like torture devices.
Which it does. It can look like that when you first see it.
And all I know is I left. I had 2 little children at the time, and I was in a lot of back pain. I had been seeing a chiropractor twice a week, and I felt so good. And I remember coming home saying, I have no idea what I did, but I feel amazing. And from then on, I was hooked. I knew I was never going to stop. And because of my dance, a lot of dancers go to Pilates because it's very natural for them. And from that first day, my instructor said, wow, you should teach this. And I thought to myself, I don't know how I'd ever learn how to do all the springs, all this and that, and my babies are at home, and yeah, it sounds like a wonderful fantasy, but I don't think it's ever going to happen. And then lo and behold, probably about a year later, I started Pilates school. And, I really believe, now I'm a firm believer of following your personal, following instincts, which I never really understood. What does that mean? How do you know what your instinct is? And now for me, the instinct is your personal, emotional, I call it the GPS system. So basically, my goal in life every day is to be happy. And so I tune into myself and I say, oh, do you feel happy? Are you having fun? Is this good? Is this not good? And for me, Pilates brought instant joy into my life. Not only did it help me be happy and feel good. There's a huge mind, body, spirit connection. But within a month, I was pain-free. I stopped going to the chiropractor, reaping all the benefits that Pilates practice can bring into your life. Breathing improves your flexibility, your core strength, your posture. It's a very dynamic, full body series of exercises, and it just was natural for me, and not easy. I'm saying natural, but definitely not easy. And I just adored it, and I never stopped doing it.
Oh, I love that. And I think that's why we get along so great, Penelope, is because we both have that. We believe in the internal GPS, and
Exactly.
that we are on a path. And if this resonates, like Pilates won't resonate with everybody, but for those that does, it can be incredible.
Oh, life-changing.
Exactly.
Absolutely life-changing. Yeah, so my whole goal is to help everybody I come into contact with, to just bring this work into their lives to help them age better, stay healthier, stay happier, find physical and internal balance. And, it's a little bit more challenging when you're dealing with a diagnosis of osteoporosis, but so doable and, very manageable, just with some modifications.
Why don't we go there? Because I can't even get over how, I love Pilates as a physical therapist. So often I've had so many clients that I've started them maybe on a little Pilates and then recommended that they really go because they enjoyed it so much. And
Right.
As you mentioned, it's amazing for core stability, posture.
Absolutely.
So many benefits of Pilates. I'm just a major fan. But I've had a few people who had osteoporosis, and they just weren't doing the home exercises. They just weren't. So I recommended, there was someone nearby who was excellent, has worked with people with osteoporosis. So I had them start working with her. And unbelievable, they were going twice a week, and their bone density increased. And that was the only exercise they were doing. They were not able, or they just wouldn't. They said, you know what? I can't fit exercise in my life, but they were willing to go twice a week to the Pilates.
Isn't that marvelous? Yeah, because it's fun.
Yeah, I've seen so many benefits from with osteoporosis, with everything really. But why don't you tell us why you're so focused and why you have this passion for osteoporosis? How did that start?
Well, ironically, after I opened my studio, which 15 years ago, I opened a Pilates studio, and I started getting people coming in telling me they had, at the time, the term was osteopenia. I don't know that that's still the term people use, but I didn't know what it was. And I started researching it, realized that it was like a huge red flag for Pilates, because 85% of Pilates exercises involve some form of flexion or loaded flexion, which, as you know, could cause a stress fracture in the spine. So I ended up going out to California, taking a workshop with an instructor out there who taught a bunch of contraindications, and I learned a lot. And that's when I got excited about becoming a National Osteoporosis Foundation support group leader. And also at the same time, she had said, everybody should get a baseline bone density scan in their early 40s. And so at the time, I want to say I was 45 years old, and went to do that myself. And I just thought, this is perfect. I'm teaching this segment of the population. I'm getting more and more knowledge and passionate about it, and I need to know where I am. And I went in, got the test. The technician looked at my results and said, something's wrong with the machine. We have to do this again. And I'm thinking, okay, something's wrong with the machine. They did it again, and it turned out that my diagnosis, I had osteoporosis, and it was pretty severe. It wasn't even mild. And I kept thinking to myself, how is this possible? I'm a dancer, I'm strong. Obviously, from the outside looking at me, the technician just thought I was this, a strong, healthy woman. So fast forward, it turned out I had a parathyroid tumor, which was causing my osteoporosis, and it had to be removed. However, it was such a wake-up call for me as far as, being more compassionate, understanding what my clients were going through, and the misconception that osteoporosis is an old lady's disease, or, you have to be elderly to get it. You look a certain way to get it. That you can feel it. All of a sudden in my own body, I was thinking, no, I feel strong. I can do all these advanced Pilates exercises. I wasn't thinking about it in terms of my own body. So that put me in a different situation where now I was both the patient, the student, and the teacher. And I actually was involved then. Eli Lilly had a panel where they were looking for both people who had diseases and who worked with the population. So for osteoporosis, osteoarthritis, and maybe rheumatoid arthritis. And I was fortunate enough to be on that panel, go to their offices and help their sciences and their R&D people understand more of what their consumers, what their pharmaceutical customers were going to need, as far as, how to help them be a better pharmaceutical company. So it was just really, it's opened, having osteoporosis, working with people, having to modify Pilates for myself, not only for my clients, and then sharing it with as much of the community as I can, has just opened such doors of knowledge, because I love learning. And so it's just been this ongoing process of, what happens to your cells when this happens, or what can I do with this or that? And it's a journey. It's nothing I felt, I guess initially you feel kind of nervous and sad, like my body's betraying me, but then you realize there's so many things you can do, especially with movement and with lifestyle, as you know, with diet, with our minds and our bodies, to make ourselves healthy.
That's how I feel exactly. So many people come in, oh my goodness, I have this diagnosis. But it's sort of a time in your life to all of a sudden stop and say, okay, it's a matter of almost regrouping. What can I do? So you have, it actually is an opportunity to look at your life and say, wait, how am I eating? How am I exercising? What's my stress level? Am I happy? So I look at it in a way as there's a huge, huge silver lining, because you get this opportunity, like it hits you in the head,
to be present with yourself
and to just re-examine where you're at and how do you want to live the rest of your life. And so many people I see were couch potatoes and they had to exercise, but now they're strong, they have more energy, they change their diet, they reduce their stress.
It's true.
So many
they're living better lives.
So I've seen it so often that, and I tell people, okay, let's look at it as just a time to reevaluate and see how we can improve. And when they improve, so many things get better. So I love the way that you said that.
And I invite people to not allow this word to define who they are.
Absolutely.
You are not your label. You are who you are when you get up every morning and say to yourself, this is going to be a fabulous day. And you can say, I feel strong. My bones are strong. My bones are happy. I mean, you and I both practice Qigong, and there's bone breathing. There's there's shake it up type things. You and I both stand on the vibration platform. There's so many fun things. And you and I are both really big hikers. I love hiking. I love challenging myself. Ballet dancing. Pilates is, for me, the foundation for all the other movement that I do. And the awareness that I have now with, what is safe and what is not safe to do, encouraging axial elongation in my spine to improve breathing and hormonal functions and things like that, just makes everything else I do much more fun and much better. So I look at it as now, I was 45 when I got diagnosed. I'll be 57 in January. And I feel great. I feel stronger. I'm confident. I feel like Joseph Pilates called this work, which initially it was called contrology when he did it. He said it's the fountain of youth that people are looking for. And it certainly has been a fountain of youth for me.
And you've seen it, and I've seen it also with so many of the people I work with.
Yeah.
Let's go to, because I think what's really important, Pilates, I love Pilates and I think it's wonderful, but people absolutely have to know and be very specific, the contraindications, because it can be dangerous.
Exactly.
The research.
So it's really important to avoid forward flexion. And I'm a classically trained instructor. So if you're in a classical studio, you start out, with hundreds.
Well, tell them and that's like bending forward.
So actually,
right.
Also, a lot of Pilates, so many of the exercises, mat work especially, are done lying on your back. So a forward flexion, anything that puts your body into a C curve. So anything that flattens your back, flattens your back on that. You need to avoid. The other thing is what's so special with Pilates is that a classical studio will focus on a neutral pelvis position. And I say to people, neutral pelvis, think of a level pelvis. So when you're lying on your back, your hip bones, the ASIS and your pubic bone have to be on the same level plane. And that's you want to get that position, which for so many people who slouch, people who have chronic C curves, they'll go into a posterior tilt. So sometimes I have to pad people to get them in the right position, but basically we don't want to strengthen a crooked body to keep it as simple as possible. So if you don't work from this neutral pelvis position or level hip position, and I say, if you think, and you tell me if you think there's a better way, I say to people, okay, our bones are the infrastructure of our body. They one of the things our bones do is they support us. We're stand in space. We're standing upright, and they're divided at our pelvis, which divides us into top and bottom. So our spine sits in it, and our legs hang from it. If our hips are crooked, that means our spine is sitting on a crooked foundation, and our legs are hanging from a crooked foundation. So all of a sudden, your muscles, your ligaments, your joints, your tendons start to do the job of your bones, and things start to end up hurting. Your body starts to give you pain signals. So if you think of your pelvis like a ceiling in a building, if a ceiling is crooked and you hang a chandelier from it, that's going to be crooked. If you build walls up from a ceiling, you're going to have a crooked house. It might stay upright, but it's going to be crooked. And at some point, gravity is going to start causing serious problems with the house. Now, that's what happens in our bodies. So not with each step we take, we put over 3.5 times our body weight of force into the earth with our feet. So consider that with a crooked pelvis, and somebody decides, oh, well, I need to go get some weight-bearing exercise. I'm going to start running or jogging or even jumping or hiking, but you're doing it crooked. So what Pilates does, why it's, I think, the gold star of everything, is that you learn first and foremost how to establish a level, neutral pelvis. Once you establish that, you begin to strengthen from it. So that's how you strengthen the core muscles. So basically the abdominals, you've got your rectus abdominals in the front, that's the six pack, and your obliques, your internal and external, your waist muscles and your transverse abdominals. You've got your diaphragm and then your lower pelvic floor diaphragm and the muscles up and down your spine, this is basically what Joseph Pilates called the powerhouse. So we begin to strengthen all of our core muscles from a neutral level pelvis position. And then we begin to stretch and breathe. And it takes a tremendous amount of concentration, but you're doing it lying down. So you're working with gravity instead of against it. And then when you start doing the other activities that you love to do, you have this awareness, this internal alignment awareness is what I call it in my Gentle Pilates videos, to help take you through your activities of daily living and the activities and sports activities or whatever dance activities that you love, but in a much more deliberate and careful way. So as you begin with a Pilates practitioner, you're going to get that baseline, and then you just have to make sure that the practitioner you're working with understands that if you have low bone density and you do, hundreds or a roll up or certain things, anything that would peel your head and shoulders up off the ground is putting too much pressure on the front of your backbone, because that's, as you know, the area that's at risk for stress fracture. So you need when you go to make sure that your teacher is going to either eliminate certain exercises or modify them. So you're still working from your center, you're still strengthening your core and improving your breathing, but you're not doing it in a way that could be injurious and cause a break.
That's the one thing that a lot of people don't know, is that forward bending, rounding. And I can't even tell you, I've given lectures and I've had to send studies to yoga and Pilates instructors because they didn't believe me.
They don't believe you. Exactly.
Because they think, no, it's very important. You strengthen the front, you strengthen the back. But there was a study done back in at the Mayo Clinic, and it was done in like 1984. And they looked at people doing different types of exercises. And I know you're familiar with this.
Exactly. Absolutely.
But I just wanted to tell people about this.
Yeah, it's such a good study.
They looked at people doing different types of exercises. Instead of looking at bone density, they looked at fracture incidence. And so they looked at people who were doing backward bending, so strengthening the back muscles, and they had a 16% fracture rate over a 6-year period of time. So this was people who already had osteoporosis.
Exactly.
And then they looked at people doing the only forward bending, rounding out and doing all those things, touching your toes, doing the C-curve, doing sit-ups. Doing all those things that, if you go to the gym, you see so many people do.
Right, pelvic tilts.
Exactly. And they had an 89% fracture risk. Fracture. It was 89% fractures. So it was huge. It's a big difference between 16% fracture rate and 89%. So after that study, they couldn't do any more studies. They couldn't do because it's not ethical.
Right, because it would be malpractice.
Right. You can't ask someone to do that.
Margie, didn't they find that it was better to do no exercise at all as far as fracture prevention?
No exercise.
Nothing at all.
It was 66%. It was better to do no exercise. I think it was like 66%.
Yeah.
Only flexion. And the combination, I think, was 58%. Somewhere in that.
What a great study that was.
But the thing is, they would like to do that on larger scale. They would have liked to duplicate more control.
But they would have broken people.
But they can't.
Yeah.
But they can't. But it makes sense, because if you look at the spine, and the area of fracture is the front, just like you said. So in the front of the spine, if you keep putting more torque there, that's already the area that's changed shape. Instead of being square, it's more wedge shape. So it's already changed shape, and now you're putting more force on it. So it's really important. In the state of New Jersey, I'm on the New Jersey Interagency Council on Osteoporosis, and we actually we created a handout for exercise instructors that if you have people with osteoporosis, what's to avoid. And the forward bending obviously was one.
How was the feedback on that?
It was great. We still have that handout actually on
That's great.
Yeah, it was.
One of my biggest frustrations is I'll get, because I have a studio here in Lenox and I have one in Albany, but in Lenox during the summertime, there's a lot of people that vacation up here that say, oh great, I can come to Pilates. I already take Pilates 2 or 3 times a week in my hometown, of wherever in the United States their hometown is. And they'll say, oh, I do an intake, as you probably do as well. And they'll say, oh yeah, I have osteoporosis, but it's no big deal. I know what to do. And that's always a huge red flag to me when I'm told something, I know what to do. And I'll start going through the routine, going through the Pilates exercises. And they'll say, well, why aren't you giving me, for example, short spine massage? And I'll say, I can't give you short spine massage, that could break you. Well, my teacher in, wherever gives me short spine massage. I do it twice a week. It feels really, really good. And then we have this conundrum, because I don't want to say, well, your teacher could be hurting you, but even though their teacher could be hurting them. So I have to say, well, here's the thing. These are the statistics. Sometimes I reference the study you just told me. I have skeletons, I have bones in my studio, so I can explain to people what it is. And then I finally just have to say, well, I understand what you're saying. I understand that it feels good, but I, in good faith, cannot give you an exercise like that once you've told me what your condition is, because I could hurt you. And then they have to decide whether or not they want to come back. And, you know, they don't always come back because they, you know, they haven't been told this, they don't understand it maybe, or, you know, the way I was when I first got the diagnosis, a lot of times osteoporosis is a silent disease. You don't know you have it.
Oh, absolutely.
And so they don't think they have to, you know, watch out for anything. And I find that as a huge frustration as an instructor when when people come and they don't understand that their modifications really are serious. They should be taken seriously.
And the good news, it's not that you can't. You can have an amazing Pilates practice.
Oh my God, yeah.
You do, Penelope.
Exactly.
As you teach, totally safe. You'll be strengthening, but yet you won't be putting yourself at risk. And I think that's what's so important. I also love what you said about having the stability, because I'll go to the gym and I'll see people all rounded out. So they really don't have core stability, and they're lifting weights and they're doing all these things that they think they're helping themselves. And it just breaks my heart. And sometimes ethically I think, oh, I just want to go over to him. You know,
I know.
I want to go over to him, but I just.
And you can't. I know. You wanted to start saying, wait, I can help you do this better.
Right. I want to go through the whole gym.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's so important that when you do Pilates properly, you're going to strengthen the core, and when you have a strong core, that's when you can really use the weight. That's going to put so much good force on the bones and really help your bone density and help everything, help you just age so much differently.
Exactly. Because if you see somebody and if they're lifting weights or doing whatever weight bearing, jogging, whatever, but they're doing it from a super slouchy position, they're not even getting the earth energy vibration isn't even going up into their hips. You know, they're putting all this energy into a workout that is not doing for them what they think it's doing for them. And that's frustrating as well.
And the problem is people really have good intentions. They're allocating time.
Yes.
They want to improve themselves. They want to be strong. They want to help their bones, as well as they just want to feel good and live long and be able to do all the activities that they enjoy. So it's not that they're not well-intentioned. That's what's so heartbreaking. It's just that they don't know exactly what to do. So, all right, we talked about forward flexion, anything rounding. What else, Penelope?
So say you're going through a Pilates workout, hundreds, which is the first thing, breathing exercise, really, really important. It needs to be modified. The roll
What is
up.
the modification, and what do you tell people, for example, on that?
It depends on the person, and that's something that if people, I know we can talk about it later, but I have a free demo on my website where that's taught. You can do we do a lot of isometric strengthening exercises. So
I guess the main thing is just that you're doing it more of a neutral posture. You're not.
Yeah, you're in a neutral posture. Right. You're lying on your back. It can be done standing. With sometimes, for the standing balance exercise class, I'll do it standing on one foot.
Right.
You can make it more challenging. Stand on a smaller surface like a yoga block. You can do it on your knees if balancing in a kneeling position.
Right. So the main thing is that
it's a breathing exercise. So it's a breath in for 5 counts, out for 5 counts, and you do 10 sets, which gives you hundreds. And in Pilates, the exhalation is ideally bigger than the inhalation, and breathing is considered, Joseph Pilates called it an internal shower, because so many people shallow breathe. They just breathe into the top of their lungs, or they inhale and their shoulders rise up. So basically, yes, breathing is it's a natural part of life. Obviously, we don't have to think about breathing because it's an automatic process. However, we can, as you know, if you're under stress, you'll have shallower breaths. For relaxation, you need to breathe deeper. So people are taught in Pilates how to take nice, full breaths into the side and back of their lungs. So your rib cage expands almost like an accordion, because we're working from our core muscles. So there's an isometric isometric tension in our abdominals. So you're not going to breathe and let your belly rise because you're using those abdominal muscles. So what the wonderful thing about Pilates breathing is, just doing that is an abdominal exercise in and of itself.
And it's interesting, besides because I work as a physical therapist, so many people with back injuries, and it's really a wonderful, it's critical. You can't just walk after an injury, or in general, you really need to strengthen the core, and Pilates is amazing for that.
Yeah. So breathing is a big principle of Pilates. I want to go through the exercises and really answer your question. So then the next exercise would be roll up, which is basic. It looks like a sit up. So that's also not something that you want to do. And when I teach people a modification to a roll up who have osteoporosis, we simply work with the arms. So you stay lying on your back, and I call them rib cage arms. So I start to just reaching the arms up overhead and bringing them forward and opening up the shoulder girdle without flaring the chest. So basically you start to learn how to move your arms and your legs independently from your torso and your pelvis, and how to work with from the inside out. So you would modify the roll up, and then single leg circle is the next exercise, which is safe. I spend a lot of time stretching out the legs and doing footwork with a stretch out strap before we actually do the single leg circle, because there's so many, hip fracture, I believe, is second to thoracic spine fracture when you have osteoporosis. So what's at risk, the bones at risk the most are your spine, your hips, and your wrists. So I like to really make sure that people's legs and hips are stretched out and that they understand how to work from their core and to free up tension in their hip joints for movement there. It helps with walking and balance and stability, and even things like internal organ function, digestion, things like that. This elongation and the hip opening up helps psoas release. Things like that are so important for having a happy, healthy movement and proprioceptive experience in life. So we spend then time stretching there before we do single leg circle. And then there's an abdominal series of 5 exercises that are still supine. You're still lying on your back. They're all contraindicated. So I focus on just the leg work on them, as long as somebody, and we work depending on what people's back strength is, what their degree of pain and things like that, or hopefully not, on strengthening legs that way. You then eliminate the seated exercises, which are spine stretch forward and saw. We eliminate rolling like a ball. I work from least to most compression on the spine. So least compression is lying on your back. Most compression is sitting. In Pilates, the traditional Pilates mat work doesn't go in that direction. So what I do is then go right from the lying on your back to the side kick series, which is one of my favorite series in Pilates. You have to work your core when you're doing it correctly. Really good for strengthening your hips, your gluteus medius. Really in Pilates, we're working every muscle in our body at the same time. But it's just so much fun. So we spend a lot of time on the side kick series. That's all safe. Then you roll onto your tummy. We do a prone extension exercises, which generally people don't like doing because they have that bone on bone feeling, and they're hard and they don't feel good. But as you know, extension work is really important to strengthen the muscles up and down the back of your backbone, to help if you have back pain. The only contraindications, if you stenosis, spondylolisthesis, there's certain contraindications that we have to be careful about. But even if they have those contraindications, you can still lie on your tummy and pull your belly button up to your spine, like you're putting on a tight belt and taking it off. That's safe, and you get to feel your core muscles working in a different way. So those exercises are safe. And then I have you lie back onto your back, and we'll do a little more relaxation and things like that, and neck relaxation. And that's pretty much how I take people through the gentle work, eliminating things that could cause damage to their bodies. And I always also like to take it from, let's take it vertical then. So it's wonderful that you do all this work in the studio or in a class and it feels good and you're lying on your back, but then in real life you're standing and walking around. So I like to then get people standing and say, okay, how do we bring our Pilates awareness into walking, into standing, into balancing, into, picking something up carefully and that sort of stuff. So we do a little bit of biomechanics as well at the end of the lesson.
And I've been so lucky to attend one of Penelope's classes in the
And
Berkshires.
we danced.
Yeah, yeah, we're going to go into that in a minute, but I think a couple really important points. Number one, you have to enjoy it. Number two,
Yes.
you know, strengthening is very important. And I think you also touched on a good point about the extension, working the back muscles, because what I see when people come to see me to want to make sure that they're doing all the right exercises for osteoporosis, a lot of times they are doing weights and they may be doing core even, but they're not doing their spine and the muscles attached to the spine. And we need to activate those muscles if we're going to want to increase, improve the bone density of our spine, or even have an effect on, as well as for support and stability. And so it's just critical that we work the back muscles. And that's one of the best ways is when you're on your stomach and doing that. And Pilates does a really good job with that.
Right. Absolutely.
So I just find that's one of the areas that's really missing that a lot in people's exercise programs. They do a lot of extremities, but they don't do a lot of things going backwards.
And that's what's so great about the Pilates method, because you're working from the inside out. It really covers everything. I mean, and I too, people will come in and I'll say, well, even, what are you doing what do you do when you're lying on your tummy? And they say, oh, we never lie on our tummy. I can't do that. So it's something that I try to get people doing from day one, getting used to the fact that, you have to strengthen those core muscles, the back of your spine. And that, as sending vibrations, in weight bearing, you have to send vibrations into the bone, and there aren't muscle attachments on the front of your backbone. The muscle attachments are on the back of your vertebra. So the little isometric exercises we do, like the shoulder press and the head press, and lying on your tummy and doing the, belly button to spine into gentle swan and things like that. That's what's triggering and pulling on those little muscles. So they're then sending vibrations into the vertebral bodies to build strong bones. So I think of it as like every single thing we do, we're actually talking to our muscles. Our brain is saying, come on, you guys, come on, work those bones, and come on, build up those osteoblasts. Let's have a bone building party in there. And well, that's actually is how I think about it.
No, I love that. I love that because you're right. The bones respond to the forces placed upon it.
Exactly.
So you have the appropriate forces to be an effective exercise.
Exactly. So if you're not putting, if you're doing bicep curls and you're going into a C curve to do the bicep curl, you're not working the muscles that you need to work to strengthen the bones that really need the most strength. And even though it is systemic and osteoporosis affects every bone in our body, inherently the weaker bones are the front of our backbone, the neck of our femur, and our wrist bones. So those are the bones that we need to give extra love and attention to. And I tell people, imagine that it's a paintbrush and you're painting your bone cells, making them stronger, whatever. Pilates has a lot of visualization that comes with it, a lot of creative, and dynamic movements and creative visualization and thought processes. And I believe that all of these positive thought processes make us stronger and make us healthier. And in the same token, I believe when people come in and say, oh, I have this and I have that and this, and they define themselves by an illness, then that's also creating that kind of a negative environment in their body and in general. So I really try to make the studio a happy, positive only, positive words only space for the people that come in. And it's very rewarding. And you probably see this in your practice too. People will come in and they could be sad or weepy or whatever, and they leave laughing and skipping outside of the studio. So I think one person at a time, we're trying to set that message.
I love that. And I just love the work you do. Before we end, I just wanted to do a couple things, but I wanted you to talk about, since Penelope's a dancer, one of my favorite things that I think you do that I really haven't experienced anything as great as the dances that you've created, is that Penelope has these dances, these really fun dances that are good for your bones. And so, I didn't mention actually that in my program, Happy Bones, Happy Life, Penelope is one of the instructors, so she's actually, we have some Pilates in it. I also have a little dance. But tell me about how you created these dances. I know you're planning on doing more of them, but they're just, talk about having fun. Oh my goodness, these are so much fun and they're great for your bones. So how did you get inspired?
Thank you so much. I'm glad you had fun. I certainly had fun doing it. And what I like to make dance and movement something that everyone can do. And so we kind of keep it simple and then play around with different choreography. And I like to mix up the music and whatever generation and genre of people I'm working with. I like to surprise if there is a song that deals with bones. I think we did Big Bone Gal. We did, I go for a pretty slow beat and it's kind of jazzy because I back in the day taking a lot of jazz classes in New York City, and so we add in fun arm work and head movements, and it's always based on the foundations of Pilates, so there's a lot of concentration involved, but it's always also at the end of a mat class, so people are warmed up and they're ready, and we find that people who don't think they can move or dance they probably have the most fun because they're doing things they didn't think they can do. So dance is one of the things I love most of all. It's weight bearing. You have to, weight shifting. You have to think, you have to count, you have to listen, there's concentration, breathing, so much. And plus it's fun. And once you start smiling, it sends all those happy hormones into your body. And that in and of itself is good for bone building.
What I love is because so often people know, they go to the doctor and they say, you have to exercise. So that's the mentality. So they go on the treadmill and they're dreading it. They set the timer, maybe they have the TV on, whatever, just get me through this. That's the thought process going through the head while they're exercising. So if they're doing maybe 30 minutes of weight bearing or whatever, and aerobics, that's person A. And then there's person B doing one of these dances that's having the most fun, using all sorts of different muscles. They're getting weight bearing. They are having all these endorphins, and as you said, the happy chemicals going through their body, which is really important for everything, even your bones. We want to certainly reduce stress.
It's true, and it doesn't feel like exercise.
It's so incredible. So I know we've talked so many times, and I'm thrilled that you're going to be doing these pretty soon. So by staying in touch with both Penelope and with me, you'll find out when these will be available, because they're really fun. And
right.
As I said, I don't know anyone who's done them. I just think you really have this knack for putting, because the choreography and you just know how to put these movements together that are, it's really,
it's one of my favorite things, and it probably is my favorite thing in the world is dance. And I just love doing it so much. So it's something on the horizon. I actually pretty sure I have the studio where I can film it all and put it together.
Oh, good.
That's so I'm glad you loved it. And hopefully.
Just think about that. How great is it to be able to do a fun dance, but that's also choreographed in such a way that you're getting major benefit. I mean, I think dance is great for everybody. To get up and just dance and feel good throughout the day is wonderful. But when you can have these videos that are put together in these dances that also are so beneficial, that's really special. So I'm excited about that. And I'm so excited that you're back in the Berkshires, because I love the Berkshires. So
I love the Berkshires. Yes, everybody's invited to Lenox or Albany, but Lenox is just so special, especially in the summertime. We've got Tanglewood and Shakespeare and Company and really beautiful little shops. Carpalo's here. It's Canyon Ranch. There's so much going on in Lenox. And
it's really it's a very spiritual, special place. So that's
very spiritual.
How lucky for you then.
And the Mount is here. Edith Wharton's home for literature people. This is a fascinating place, and wonderful also farmers markets and really super healthy food and hiking. It's a great place to come.
I know. I want to go there I go every year, but I want to go spend extended time there because it's so much fun. But thank you. I can't thank you enough. And you've really given us so much great information. Is there anything that you want to share? Any last little tips or anything?
Yes. Never give up. I know when you first get a diagnosis, or if you know somebody that you're trying to help, I really believe that nothing is ever hopeless. It's never give up. And if the only thing you can do is lie on your back and with your knees bent and your arms by your side in the decompression posture, that's actually exercise. So sometimes that's how we start, that's how we finish. And people say, well, when does the work begin? And the work begins, you've begun the work. So I guess my last takeaway would be, every day of your life is a really important day of your life. So be present in it. Wake up in the morning, set your intention. It might be the best day you've ever had in your entire life. And if you approach it with joy and gratitude, as we've talked about this a lot, just, with the potential that everything is an adventure, and just never give up on yourself.
I love this. This is why we get along so well, because I just
thank you so much.
I completely
and hi
agree.
To everybody watching. I'm really grateful that the people watching, hopefully they listened to the whole podcast and that they took the time and were interested in what I had to say. I hope I'm.
Thank you so much for all the great information and enlightening us to all this. And
thanks, Margie.
Thank you so much, and we'll be in touch.
Okay, Margie, take care.
I hope you enjoyed today's interview with Penelope as much as I have, and have a better understanding of the principles of Pilates. The good news is that since this recording, Penelope has created 2 fabulous Pilates videos on YouTube through Wave Street Studios in Monterey, California. And I have these links in the show notes to these outstanding, safe workouts. The first one is more mat work, and the second one is some standing postures. So it's a great resource. I highly recommend checking them out if this interests you. Additionally, I just wanted to remind everyone that if this motivated you to take a local Pilates class or work with a Pilates instructor and you do have osteoporosis, just make sure that they understand all the precautions, because you certainly don't want to have good intentions and end up causing a fracture because the precautions were not taken. So this information is really important that we discuss today. Also, since the interview was recorded, Penelope has taken a new job as managing consultant at Changing Tastes, a company dedicated to creating a more sustainable, healthy, joyous, and profitable food system worldwide. Right now, she's working on a campaign called Thank You Africa to bring the message of gratitude, value, and empowerment to Africa. So I have the link to that campaign below as well. So check it out, because it's really fascinating what they're doing. Anyway, bye for now, and look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Happy Bones, Happy Life podcast. If you enjoyed this show, please subscribe on your favorite listening app so that you don't miss any amazing insights on upcoming episodes. And until next time, continue to live your best life ever. See you soon.